Hello and welcome to Kojostricklab. Today I'm going to be teaching you the touchdown raise. Now this is one of my favorite looking tricks. A load of trickers do it because it looks really cool, feels really cool. I mean, look at that. Looks good, doesn't it? I like it anyway. And you like it too, that's why you're on this video. If you've seen my 1000 rep challenge video, then you'll know a bit about my history of this trick. Couldn't do it for about 5 years. Then I watched the tutorials on this site from Michael Guthrie, Andersen Vivien Youlou, and then I did it 1000 times, and by the end of the 1000 times, I could do triple cork from it. Since then, I've spent the next year focusing on getting it as good as I can. It's still not perfect, but it's alright, isn't it? It's not amazing, but it's decent. It's good enough for me to help you to learn it. Now, I've made so many mistakes along the road learning this trick, and I didn't understand it at all when I first started trying it. So I know how to get into your mind the perspective of someone who does not have a clue about how touchdown raise works and help you to understand this movement. So with that being said, let's get started with the ultimate touchdown raise guide. Now first off, what is a touchdown raise? There's a few different ways you can interpret it and understand it in your own mind. You can look at it like a Gumby where you miss out the first hand, put down the second one. You can look at it like a raise where you touch down your hand, or you can look at it like a cheat setup into a Valdez. Now I'm going to stay away from that method of doing it because I don't think that one's as useful for when it comes to front swinging into it and doing different variations with it, or just honing it for the most amount of power. I don't think that's the best way, but some people do it that way, so you can learn it that way if you want, just not for me. Now hopefully you've tried this trick before. If you haven't, that's no problem. As long as you have a raise, then you should be able to progress towards this trick. That's the method I'm going to be using to teach it. We're going to be going down the raise route. Doesn't even need to be a really good raise. You can already start working towards it, but you will need to be able to do step 2 in my raise tutorial to be trying this trick. So if you've not got that yet, head over to that tutorial, put in some work on that, and you'll be able to give this a go. So for step 1 of learning your touchdown raise, I'm going to take you out onto the grass. You don't want to just be in my garage the whole time. So let's go down to the park, get out in nature, learn some flips. Ladies, some space please. Okay, so step 1 towards getting your touchdown raise. Now this step's going to be kind of pointless if you've already tried touchdown raise, you already have some kind of touchdown raise, so you can just skip right past it. But if you've never tried the trick at all, then this step is just going to help you get a basic feel for the movement. We're going to be doing it kind of wrong, but it's just going to help you to get some kind of shape of a touchdown raise so that we can work from there and clean it up and you have an idea of what's going on. You don't want to just jump into the full trying to do perfect tech touchdown raise, or it's going to be kind of dangerous because you'll be throwing yourself right over your head and you won't really know where you are. So this is the first step. All I'm going to get you to do is do a massive arm motion. We're not going to overthink it too much at this point. You're going to start off with your chest facing the opposite direction to the direction you're traveling, and then this left arm's going to come over the top as you turn your left foot. If you go to the left, if you go to the right, mirror it. And then from there, you're going to swing your left arm downwards, swing your right arm over, and we're just going to look over our left shoulder and try and get that left hand on the ground. Now the bigger and wider this arm motion, the easier it's going to be to understand. At first you can do it kind of slow, just make sure the arm motion is huge. You want it to be like this. So that's not really a touchdown raise, but that's kind of your first step in the method that I'm teaching it. I'll show you another one of them. Remember, emphasize the huge arms doing this massive motion. It's going to make it a lot easier, and look over your shoulder to put the hand down so that you can spot where you're putting your hand down and it's not too dangerous. So make sure you've gotten comfortable with that. Make sure your hand's touching the floor before your feet come down, and you've got yourself step 1. Okay, now you're nice and comfortable with step one, we're gonna go on to step two. We're gonna get a little more technical with it. So we're gonna start off with our chest facing the opposite direction to the way we're traveling. And this time when we go into it, after that left arm comes over and our left foot turns, we're gonna think about our foot positioning. So as you step onto your right foot, you don't wanna turn it inwards too much. So if I do that facing you, you don't wanna be doing this, or what a lot of people do when they're first trying it is turn all the way to there. You don't wanna be doing any of that. Your goal is to take off with your foot straight forwards. If you aim to take off with the foot straight forwards, then as you take off, you're likely to turn a little bit, but you don't want it to turn any more than 90 degrees. That's why I tell you to aim to step to have your foot facing directly in the direction of travel. As that way you're shooting for the moon, so you might get to the clouds. I don't know, you know the saying. You want to aim for perfection, and then you're probably going to get close. If you're aiming for trash, you're going to get trash. Even worse trash. You're going to get flaming trash. So step two is the exact same motion, just we're focusing on fixing that foot positioning. We want the foot facing straight. Now when I do it, I like to step with my foot kind of wide apart from the other leg. I know it's taught differently in different tutorials. In Michael Guthrie's one, he steps straight through. And obviously that works incredibly well. I mean, just look at his touchdown raise. But if you're not that flexible, then you're gonna have a tough time opening your hips enough to keep yourself in a straight line. Whereas if you step a bit wider, then it's kind of easier for you to keep that line as you go into your touchdown raise. So if you're super flexible, it might be easy for you to step closer, but if you're someone who's not that flexible, stepping a bit wider might be easier. You'll notice Alexander Andersen, he uses that technique as he's not super flexible and it seems to work quite well for him. So now I'll do the same thing, but I'll focus on my foot positioning. So this isn't me trying to do a really good touchdown raise, I'm just trying to exaggerate the foot positioning. And then one towards you.
Don't think she liked it.
Moving on to step three of our touchdown raise. Now all I've really given you up to this point is basic information so that you can get a kind of understanding of how the movement works and just get something to build off of. This is the bit where I'm going to tell you pretty much every single thing you need to know about touchdown raise. There's probably some things that I don't know about yet that I'm not going to mention because I don't know about them yet, but I'm going to tell you everything I do know. Now the best method for you to learn how to do all of these things, how to get the timing between every single bit of your body, is to practice shadow drills. Shadow touchdown raises are the absolute best thing you can do to really understand the move without trying it. Because obviously there's only so many you can do. I wouldn't recommend trying to do more than 20 when you're first learning this in any one session, as you might get repetitive strain injuries on your wrist, as you're going to be doing it with bad technique because you're learning it, so it's probably going to hurt your wrist more than it would have if you were great at it. So don't do too many at first, but what you can do in between your sessions is work towards fixing every bit of your touchdown raise by doing these shadow drills. So I'm going to talk you through it, tell you what every bit of your body should be doing and at what times they should be doing it. So we're going to start off with our chest facing away from the direction of travel. And then the first thing you're going to do is turn your left arm outwards, pointing directly in the direction you're going to travel. That arm's not coming across, it's coming straight down and over the top. Once that arm gets to there and your left foot's turned to face the direction of travel, the right arm is going to straighten out. And from here we're going to lock out our arms. So you've got that shoulder lock. They're moving at the same time. That's really important. Don't think about two separate arm movements. Think about them as one. So it's also important to remember there is no pause in this process. As that left arm extends to there, right arm's going to extend as well, and you're going to go straight into it. So there's no break. You're not doing this and then this. It's all one motion. So after you've gotten to that position with the locked out shoulders, your left arm is gonna swing downwards in time with your right arm coming over the top like that. As your left arm gets to about hip position, that's when you want the right foot to come down in your step. Try not to think about your step as too much of a turn, not like a tornado kick like that. You want to think of your step as you stepping forwards into it, looking in the direction you're going to be going. So as this left arm gets to your hip and the right arm comes over the top, we're going to step. I try to step a little bit wider than that actually. Step to about there. So your left arm's down here, right hand's up there. So your hips should be facing forward, chest should be facing forwards. One thing that will mess you up is if you do too big a step, if your leg's all the way up here, you'll find your arms have turned too much before you step down onto your foot. A lot of information, I know. There's a lot more coming as well. As we step into this position, it's really important to bend at the knees and dip down to the floor, as we want to be low in our touchdown raise, or you're going to be barely touching the ground with that hand. So as the left arm comes down, right arm comes over, we're going to bend into that step. So now I'm down in this position. And then from here, I'm going to keep my shoulders locked, keep this same motion going throughout the trick, but I'm going to look along my right arm. So I'm looking where my right arm's going. I'm following it for as long as I possibly can. Another thing to think about while you do this is do this with your chin. That's just going to help you arch your back and open up your chest a lot more. So as that right arm's swinging, I'm spotting along the right arm, looking there like that. And then what do you do with the back leg? Try to just let it go backwards. Just allow it to lift up behind you. Don't kick it backwards like you would in a Raiz. That's going to make it pretty hard for you to stay close enough to the ground. Now, when you get better at touchdown Raiz, you can start to kick the back leg, as if you add more distance to it, if you reach further, then even if you kick the back leg, you're still going to be low enough. So it's just going to give you more power. But I wouldn't think about that until you're already pretty good at it. For now, just allow the back leg to come up nice and slowly. As long as you have the foot positioning right, it should naturally come up to where it needs to be, really. Once you've got that spot, you've got that bend at the knees, you're looking along your right arm, your left arm's coming over the top, you're going to keep your shoulders locked all the way over. So practicing that as a shadow drill. Start off incredibly slowly, thinking about every little thing I've just told you. Start off like this, left hand, turn, shoulder lock, step as the left arm comes over, spot along the right arm, do this with your head so that you can open up your back and allow the back leg to come backwards. Once you get more comfortable with that, start to add a little bit of speed. It's important that you make sure you're doing these shadow drills alongside your training. If you've already done step 2, then all I want you to do is try and implement all of these tips into your touchdown Raiz. So try and fix the foot positioning, fix the back leg coming up. You don't want to be kicking it too hard. Try and think about where you're spotting when you go into it, what you're doing with your head, what you're doing with your shoulder lock. There's a lot of little things, so I recommend focusing on one at a time. Film yourself training your touchdown Raiz and try and figure out what it's missing. Maybe the timing between the arms and the steps all off. Maybe that's throwing you off. Maybe you're stepping too high into it. A load of different things. I'm going to go over the common mistakes in a bit. But try to focus on one of them at a time and focus on fixing it every time you practice your touchdown Raiz. In between sessions, do these shadow drills to the point where you can show someone. You should be able to explain to someone exactly what I just explained to you, every single point of it. If you've learned every single one of those points, you're going to have a much easier time getting a good touchdown Raiz because you'll truly understand it. If you kind of listen, you kind of know what I said, you know, yeah, I got to do this and that, it's probably not going to be that good. This is something you really need to put some serious thought into if you want to get good at it. I know, because I sucked at this for 5 straight years and I was practicing it. I went out on the grass all the time, had a lot of sessions where I was just trying to do touchdown Raiz. Didn't get very far with it because I didn't put enough thought into it. I didn't really understand what I was even going for. You've just got to put in the work, do these shadow drills, film yourself, focus on every little bit, and eventually your touchdown Raiz is gonna get really nice. All right, let's talk about some common mistakes. I've got a little list to make sure I don't forget any of them. Common mistake number one, as I've mentioned, the foot placement. Make sure you're not turning your foot too much when you go into it, and make sure you're not stepping too high. So you're not doing this when you step into it. Bam, big X. No, don't do that. You also don't want to do this. Big step like that, because you're just going to turn too much before the foot comes down. And common mistake number two is the arm motion isn't over the top enough. This is a really, really common one. This is probably the most common mistake. I see this one more than any other mistake. I also used to make it myself for a long time. The arms aren't coming over the top enough. People are doing this with their arms. Left arm's coming around the side, right arm's coming around the side. So guess what? The touchdown raise is going to go around the side. You need to make sure those arms are coming straight over the top. Left arm like that, and then your right arm is going straight for as long as possible, reaching as far away from you as possible. Make sure you think about that one. The next common mistake is the timing between the upper and the lower body. If you're doing the whole upper body motion, but then your lower body isn't letting that leg go back until too late, you're gonna go around the side. If you're doing the lower body motion, you're stepping and then starting to let this leg come back, but your arms have only just started swinging, that's also gonna mess you up. You're gonna be too high off the ground when you go for it. So you've got to make sure you get that balance and get the timing between the two. Also, I did mention it earlier, but I'm just gonna hammer this one home. If you kick your leg straight backwards like a Webster, it's gonna lift you off the ground too much. Imagine trying to do a cartwheel where you kicked your leg backwards like an aerial. It would look something like this. You're barely getting your hands down. I'm not gonna get any power from a cartwheel like that. And the same with a touchdown raise. I'm not gonna get any power from a touchdown raise where I really blast my leg back, because my hand's gonna touch the ground too late. I'm too high off the ground. So what I'd recommend is focusing on your arms pulling you over. Don't use the leg to get you over, just allow it to come upwards. All of the power in this is coming from my arms. The leg is just it's doing its thing. Now I mentioned it earlier as well, you can start to kick the leg back more in the future once you're better at touchdown raise. Let's say you wanted to do a really powerful touchdown raise for a triple cork or something, then yeah, you might want to do a bigger step, reach really, really far in front of you, and then that will allow you to kick this leg backwards more, as you'll still stay low enough to the ground because you've reached so far. And the last common mistake I'm going to go over is the spot. This is one, obviously, I messed up on for a while, and most other people who are trying it mess up on as well. Spotting along your right arm was the real game changer for me. It's in Michael Guthrie's tutorial, so you probably already know about it. After this left arm comes over and you've locked your shoulders, swing them over, you want to look along this hand for as long as you can, and make sure you're doing it in that position all the way through your takeoff. You probably have a good idea about how the move works now and what you need to be doing with what body part at what time and how it all relates to each other and all of that. But that's not enough here on Kojostricklab. Oh no, I've got a couple more shots of knowledge juice for you that are gonna quench that knowledge thirst that you've got for touchdown raise. Now it's one thing understanding the technique, but it's a whole nother game trying to actually make your body do that. If you've tried to learn pretty much any trick, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give you a few things that you can do to help speed up the learning process. The first one is mental rehearsal. Make sure you're thinking about this trick. It's a complicated trick. You need to spend some time going over it in your mind. So when you're not training, just put a bit of thought into it. Think, okay, so I need to do this with this arm, this with that one. I need to be looking there as I go over. Try and imagine yourself doing the trick with perfect technique. Think about how that would feel and just envision yourself doing it over and over, what each body part's doing at what time. You can also do this while watching videos of yourself, watch what you're doing wrong, think about those things. For example, you might be swinging your right arm across your body instead of forwards and down. So watch yourself doing it and then think, oh, I need to be like this, need to be like this. This is how I do it. This is what I'm gonna do with my other hand at this point. Think about the move. It's just gonna help you learn it faster. The next thing that's gonna help is conditioning your body specifically for this trick. So make sure you're regularly stretching your wrists, shoulders, back, hips. All of these areas are gonna be really important for your touchdown raise. You want to be as flexible and strong in these places as possible. So any stretching or conditioning you can do for these areas is going to really help. Now luckily, you're a Kojostricklab member, so there's information on all of these things on the site. So check out routines for these body parts, follow those routines while you're training towards this move. It'll help with other things in general, but it's just going to help you get your touchdown raise down much faster. The next thing you can use to help is practicing the scrubber, also known as the sailor touchdown raise. Now all that is the same as a touchdown raise, but you're gonna tap your right hand, if you're a left side twister, on the floor before you put your left hand down. It's gonna look just like this. As you can see, yeah, it's not much different to a touchdown raise, but what it's gonna do is it's gonna make sure you swing that right arm forwards into your touchdown raise. Practicing your sailor touchdown raise or scrubber is going to help you with your touchdown raise because it will get that right arm in the right position. It'll make sure you take off with your hips squared towards the direction of travel, and it's just going to be another trick for you to learn as well. So it makes things a bit more interesting, and you're getting 2 tricks for the price of 1. It's Kojostricklab for you. The next tip is practicing your touchdown raise into power tricks. As soon as you can swing out of it, start swinging out of it. What you don't want to be doing is just doing touchdown raise by itself loads. Now, I understand doing this a bit when you're first learning it, maybe the first 100 or so, you're probably not going to be swinging out of. But when you start to get the hang of it and you're landing on one leg, even if it's not perfect, just try and force out a gainer. Try and do something out of it. If you spend 2,000 reps of touchdown raise not swinging out of it, you might get pretty good at it, but then you're gonna have to spend loads of time learning how to get power from the movement. Whereas if you were training it into tricks for all of those reps, then you're already gonna know how to get power out of your touchdown raise. And it's probably gonna be better. Just over time, you're gonna naturally start to do it in the way that gives the best results. So I'd highly recommend doing tricks out of your touchdown raise as soon as possible. The next tip that will help you learn this move faster is doing it from different steps, so different ways of getting into it. The one that I've showed you where you start with your chest facing the other way, it's quite an easy one to understand, good learning tool, but you want to try it a load of different ways. So here's a few examples. You got this one where you start off facing forwards in the direction you're traveling, and then quickly shuffle your feet, do the arm motion, touchdown raise. There's a little less to think about in this one, and you have to swing your arms a bit harder to generate the power to get over. So it's a really good one to practice, as if you can get power from a touchdown raise like this, then when you're doing it in a combo, you're gonna have no problems getting even more power. Another thing you can do is carry through into your touchdown raise. This will really help you with learning how to kick that left leg backwards in your takeoff. Not too hard, remember, but just making sure it comes straight back behind you rather than round the side so much. It'll also help you to get more inversion in your touchdown raise, as typically doing this setup into it will throw you more over the top. I don't even really think about doing an actual hook kick or a crescent. I just think about turning into a leg lift and then swinging my leg backwards into a touchdown raise. So once you get to a decent point with your touchdown raise, where it's starting to really look like the trick and it's feeling somewhat comfortable, I'd recommend using all of these different ways to go into it, just to help you build your understanding of the trick as a whole. So I hope this video helped you with your touchdown raise. Hope you at least learned something. And if you did learn something, if it did help you to improve at this trick, then just consider signing up to Kojostricklab, as we have over 350 tutorials and over 800 videos in total. So it probably would help your tricking. Even if it just gives you a 2% boost, is that not worth £10 or $12 or whatever it is in your currency? As I'm sure you can tell by this video, my life goal is to get as good as possible at tricking. I just really love tricking. So that puts me in a great position to be able to help other people get better at tricking, as that's what I spent the last 10 years of my life doing all the time. So I can help you get better, and so can the 100 plus other trickers on Kojostricklab. Just try it out, see what you think.